I think that young people have such an important role in youth leadership and leadership in general because adults often overlook our voice and that we have a voice. Young people everywhere should make their voices heard because we are the now generation. My name's Cassandra Lynn, I'm 15, I'm from Westerly, Rhode Island, and I'm co-founder of Project TGIF, Turn Grease into Fuel. I think that growing up in this area has definitely affected my environmental conscience because there's a lot of natural beauty where I live. In 2005, my brother started this project called Recycle and Reuse Our E-Waste. He and his team would get old computers and refurbish them and then give them to kids who didn't have access to those computers. So I remember I would always be cleaning out the keyboards and stuff even when I was little. Project TGIF is a sustainable system that collects used cooking oil from restaurants and residents, has it converted into environmentally friendly biofuel, and then uses that biofuel to heat the homes of financially stressed families. We launched Project TGIF by first lobbying our local town council, and we asked them to place a receptacle at the transfer station so residents could recycle their oil there, and they agreed. So that was a huge step because before I don't think there was any public place where residents in Rhode Island could go to recycle their used cooking oil. So then we started targeting commercial waste cooking oil, visiting the restaurants one by one, going up to their doors and asking for the owner or the manager or someone we could talk to who could donate to the program. And then they'll provide you with free drums and come periodically to pick up your grease.
So it doesn't cost me anything?
No. And at first it was actually pretty challenging because who's going to believe a bunch of fifth graders are going to change the world, you know? But after we gained some restaurants, we gained credibility as well. So we could go up to the restaurants and be like, hey look, we have 30 restaurants, do you want to be another? All the grease is converted into biofuel and then the portion from our program will go directly to charities, to those that need the heat. The relationship between us and the charities is that they help us identify those who need the heat and then we just deliver the biofuel to those families.
They are amazing. I'm very proud of them to have a heart like that, to see something that may have gone to waste and see how they can to bring it back to life for someone to help them.
I remember the first year we probably had 30 restaurants, and now, 5th year into the program, we have 132 restaurants participating in the program. And I think we've set some goals to further that number and hopefully get 200 within the next 1 or 2 years. I definitely think that Project TGIF is replicable, and because of that, we've actually created this toolkit of sorts. All the agreements, contracts, brochures, postcards necessary to get this started anywhere. I think there's definitely a difference between doing something of this scale by yourself and taking on this endeavor with a bunch of your friends. The great part of working in a team is we all try to keep each other motivated. We're all yay, we just got another restaurant, high five guys.
The best part of having Cassandra on the team is that she's always there to sort of forge the path for us.
We put so much energy into this project because I think that even from when we were young, we saw what a big impact it had, and if you volunteered, you've always felt this feeling that you're not just giving back, but you're also helping yourself.
NetChange, a week of events exploring the intersection of social tech and social change. Don't get what we mean? Well, by social tech and social change, we mean the use of online platforms to help achieve a desired positive outcome in society. Say a behavioral shift or a new government policy. This isn't a passing fad. This is our new communications paradigm. It's like when organizations such as Greenpeace and Framework use transparency and openness to engage their audience. Online platforms like Kiva and Ties have built communities of support for the 21st century. Social movements like the Girl Effect use viral media to change age-old perceptions. Cause campaigns like 350.org and Move On, or pretty much anything done by Avaz. This is Advocacy 2.0. This is democracy. At NetChange, we're bringing people who work towards social change goals up to speed with the new tools at their disposal so they feel equipped to make an impact. NetChange Week. Don't be left behind. Come explore at netchangeweek.ca.
So let me tell you about Ayelet Baron, our speaker. So Ayelet has earned recognition as an expert in online collaboration, social media, global business strategy, and corporate social responsibility. Her particular area of expertise is implementing strategy and driving business results through people. And her passion is connecting people and making a difference in the lives of youth. She's leading strategy and transformation, something close to our hearts. Prior to that, she was on the executive team of Cisco's emerging markets, and she's going to talk about that a lot today. And she was looking at ways that emerging technologies can drive greater equity in emerging markets, as well as driving key sales initiatives internally at Cisco. With more than 16 years, which is hard to believe because she told me she's 23, but with more than 16 years of industry experience and over 10 years of leadership experience at Cisco, including 3 global roles. Ayelet has a proven track record of success in implementing successful change initiatives. She was recently selected as a Cisco Leadership Fellow, where she developed a social networking handbook for social good, which is being implemented by over 26 global nonprofits. It's meant to improve community building and information sharing. She worked with leading CIOs to develop a strategy for better collaboration between social entrepreneurs and practitioners. And for folks who were here last year, they might recognize the Net Hope project. The presentation was by Kelvin Cantelfino. So she is also a leader behind ICT4D healthcare initiatives to create greater collaboration between the private, public, and citizen sectors. She's a recognized leader and speaker on social media, strategic change, emerging markets, social entrepreneurship, emerging technologies, and linking all that to business strategy. She was recently in the board of directors of Family and Children's Services with youth, works with youth in Kenya, and she also recently became a social media advisor to One Degree Media and Entertainment, focused on delivering a community media that matters and an e-commerce platform to make it easy to connect with the products and services that you want. So quite an impressive resume. We're thrilled she's here. Please join me in welcoming Ayelet.
Mic is heavy. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I'm thrilled to be back home in Toronto, and the fact that it's summer outside as well. I want to talk to you about some work that I've been doing. Some of it is part of Cisco Canada, and some of it is part of Cisco more broadly than that. And just a technical question. Am I going to see my slides here? Okay. But I want to talk to you about the people that I see as heroes in our society and give you a perspective on what's possible, because I don't think anything is impossible. So how many of you right now are tweeting? Okay, who is not tweeting? Thank you. So what we've seen is, and this isn't news for anybody or anybody who's been here at NetChange all week at the conference, but you know, before 1990, and since I'm 23, I wouldn't know, people were not really connected. They were more connected into their communities. And then we started to get more connected to information, and then we started getting more connected to people. I remember when I was president of an association here in Toronto, I got everybody on board to start email, and they thought I was crazy when I asked them to set up a website. So it's amazing how far we've come, and today everything is connected. And if you think about it, 3 years ago, the smartphones that we all have, who knew about the iPad 3 years ago? All that innovation that's happening is fairly new. And if you look at the speed of innovation, it's really accelerating. I think Facebook, I just saw a tweet that it reached 700 million users. It was just at 500 million. And so I think some people have a double identity online as well, if you look at the demographics. But if you look at the speed of it, things are happening much faster. And those of you who know me know that I'm a big believer that now we trust strangers. And the evolution that we've gone through is, before it was really religious institutions, monarchy, they were dictating the agenda of what people knew and what information people had access to. Then we had the mass media age, where a lot of the information came to us from the media. The big debate now, and I've heard a lot of lectures about it, is, you know, are these bloggers valid, is what the journalists say. The bloggers will say, are these journalists valid? So it goes both ways around how we're looking at information. And for me, what's really exciting, I've been doing online collaboration and online communities since the mid-'80s. And of course, I'm still 23. But doing all that work for that long and starting it here in Canada, it shows you what's possible to connect. And the world we live in is one where it's more about content right now. How many of you have ever gone to a restaurant based on a recommendation you saw online by someone you don't know? Vacation? Movie? Okay. Right? So we've gone to a world where we're starting to trust strangers about the information that we want. And I'm known as a social media geek, but I really want to talk to you today more about social media tools and how we could use them more effectively for collaboration. And what we're seeing is that authority is on the decline, and consumers' ability to publish content. Right now, there are people who are either loving or hating what I say, and it's all out on Twitter. And I don't have a Twitter feed here for the questions, but you know, it's all about content right now, and the ability to look at how we influence. A topic that's very close to my heart is mobile health. I was part of the Mobile Health Alliance that was formed a couple years ago, and have done work around mobile health. And what I see when it comes to mobility is that the developed world, and I hate the term developing world, but that's the only one I know, so if anybody comes up with a new word, let me know. But that the developed world is about 10 years behind the developing world when it comes to mHealth. The innovation that have been around is amazing, but part of it is also because there are more mobile devices in Africa than there are shoes. So when you think about the access, not everybody is privileged to have that black or silver device that they go to get the information that they need. And so when you're starting to look at mobility and health, there's so much that we could learn from the developing world and what's going on. The other phenomenal piece of data is that 60% of the population in Africa today is under the age of 25. So you think about mobile devices. I do a lot around Generation Y and boomers and social media. And the way that I like to describe it is boomers are scared of Big Brother. Boomers have grown up with process and protocol. Gen Y are always on. And I love to tell this story that I heard from a customer in Montreal a couple of weeks ago, where he said, you know, my son and I were talking, and I explained to him that we didn't always have PCs or MacBooks. And I looked at my son and I said, do you get it? Do you understand that we didn't always have computers? And the son looked at him and said, "Sure, Dad, I get it, but how'd you connect to the internet?" So when you think about it, the boomer generation thinks about being online and offline, and the older, and the younger generation, it's always been on. It's never been off. So their frame of reference is much different. And if you look at the power of mobile, I'm a big believer in mobile. I'd love to see a whole acceleration of mobility in the developed world. And I've actually talked to some professionals now who have been experts in the last 15 years in mobile health in the developing world who now want to come and do more work in the developed world on that, which I think would be really amazing because then we wouldn't have to look at the same issues. So how many of you know what's been going on in Egypt? Tunisia, Libya. So that's my old, as we call it in sales, that's my old patch. That's where I worked for the last 5 years, was in emerging markets at Cisco. And I was just in Egypt about 9 months before this happened. And I had dinner with a colleague who's in San Francisco. I said to him, "When are you flying home?" He goes, "Oh, I'm flying home on Wednesday or Thursday." He's not social media savvy. He's not tweeting. He's not doing any of that. And I said, "Don't you know that there's something going on? Aren't you worried?" He's like, "No, I got to get my shopping done and all this stuff." And then this whole thing blew up in Cairo, and I tried to get him on his mobile to make sure that he was okay, and he made it home. And it's amazing how much this unrest has been enabled through these tools. So I am not a big believer that this is a social media revolution, because the youth in Egypt have organized for years. There's been dissent, if you know the political, economic situation in these parts of the world. There are issues there that they have been organizing over a long time. But the issue here is that now they had a place to get their voice out, which is huge. And Andy Carvin is, if you don't follow him on Twitter, I really recommend you do. He's an NPR journalist. I saw him at South by Southwest in March and thanked him for all the work that he was doing because he's getting the stories from the people. And I asked him about Tunisia. And he said, you know, when it came to Tunisia, the people, the kids there identified who they are. They gave their names. And I said, well, that's really interesting because if you look at Iran, they created all these IDs. I think that's probably about 50 million of the IDs on Facebook are from there. Why were the youth in Tunisia so brash about it? And they said, well, because they felt they might die tomorrow and they want to be remembered and they wanted their name to be associated with it. So when you start thinking about people having a voice and what collaboration can do, it brings back to who I am. So I wanted to take a couple minutes to tell you who you're listening to, because I don't know who you read about, but I'll give you my perspective around it. I've lived in 4 countries. The US is the 4th country I've lived in. I'm Canadian. I'm also very confused, but I feel like I'm very much a global citizen. I care about the world we live in. I'm very much an early adopter. You know, if you haven't tried Plancast yet, if you haven't tried a lot of these other things, come talk to me afterwards. I'll tell you about all these cool things. I love to play with technology and figure out how it helps us in our lives. And I'm very much a change agent. So a lot of what I believe in, I've been trained in change, as well as, this is the age one, I'm a Gen Y in an old vessel. And I tend to break glass here and there to get things done. And my philosophy in life is that everything we do is all about relationships. And what I love about social media right now as tools is the ability for people to have a voice and to build trust. To me, Twitter is not about broadcasting information. It's about how do you strategically build relationships. If you know Katrine from mobileactive.org, I met Katrine on Twitter, and then we met face to face. There are a lot of people that the first relationship we had was when, you know, before all the celebrities hit Twitter about 4 years ago, we had some really good conversations. And I'm actually right now looking for what is the next platform. Because for me now, there's not that one platform that I really want to do that's not based on my friends or my followers or any of that, but are based on issues that I'm passionate about. And I think what it is all about, is choices. We have a lot of choices out there. We have a lot of tools. How many of you don't get enough email? Who wants another social media platform? Right? So when you think about it, you think about the choices we make, where we spend our time. And people often say to me, how do you make the time for social media? And I say, I don't make the time, it's part of my daily life. It's ingrained in how I live, work, play, learn, the whole thing. And it's a choice I make. I said, the toughest decision I have to make is really what book to read. I love to read, and there's so many books out there being published every day. So how do I choose which book is going to get my time? So when you're starting to think about online collaboration and social media, you need to start thinking about what tools help enhance you in the work that you do. So how many people recognize these people? They're all over the media, right? I don't even have to put a label of their name. One of the things that drives me crazy is our celebrity culture. And what drives me crazy about it is that what percentage of the news goes on this, right? I mean, Twitter got a bad name when Oprah went on because now everybody was tweeting about what they ate. I have to tell you, I probably have had three tweets in my lifetime on what I ate, out of close to 7,000 tweets. So, it's that kind of thing of what kind of culture we're in. And what I'm here to talk to you about is something I'm really passionate about. It's some work that I'm bringing on from emerging markets, working with youth in emerging markets. And my heroes are real heroes. Hital Miraj is our Cisco Networking Academy lead in Kenya. She was just named top 40 women under 40. She could be Canadian because she's one of the most humble women I've met in my lifetime. And she's absolutely incredible. Last year, she won a Youth Leadership Award from Usher's New Look Foundation. And there she is with Usher, and there she is looking at it. And she was actually sending me her speech because I'm her mentor. And I'm telling her, just tell the stories, your voice of all these amazing youth. Please share their stories. And when we went to meet with the First Lady of Rwanda, that's who she's hugging there, I'm in the background there, she told me about how exciting it was every time that she went to these girls' sessions and saw the First Lady hugging these girls, that she would just love to get a hug. So of course, being Canadian and not humble, I said to the First Lady, how about you give Hital a hug? And we captured it, and I had to get that out really quickly because it went to her mother. But this is the power of the heroes. And Hital came back after winning this award. She got it from Bill Clinton and Usher. She came back from her second visit in the United States. She's only been there one time before, and said, I'm not doing enough in the world. And what she did was she started working with more youth. And when I was in Kenya, I saw some of her work and I participated in it. The girls up there is a picnic I sponsored for a bunch of our Networking Academy girls in one of the slums in Kenya. These are girls who are either house girls, which means they clean people's houses, or they're street girls. And what we do is we allow them an opportunity to, we actually go to their employers and talk to them, and we bring them in to learn technology, to learn IT. And when I met the girls who had been through the program, they had kind of joy in them. And when I met the girls who were just starting out, they were scared of themselves. And so we sponsored a picnic, which, and we asked them to draw where they see their lives in 3 years. And what you see here is a picture of one of the girls that said, in 3 years, I will be running a Cisco Networking Academy. My networking academy is going to be unique. And it's going to be unique because it's going to have a place for the orphans to eat. So we're going to have food for them as well. And what I've really seen is that when you give people the opportunity and the choice and the voice, it's amazing what they can do. And we also had a session here that was organized by Cisco Canada, bringing together through Cisco Telepresence, which is what you see at the bottom screen there. Cisco Telepresence has actually changed my life. And I can't say that about a lot of things. Although chocolate, I think I could put in there as well, but that's not always a good thing. But telepresence is this incredible technology where if you're looking at this photo right here, you actually have people in other locations, and it feels like you're sitting around a table and having a conversation. And because of Cisco Telepresence, I've been able to, one, travel less, have less of a carbon footprint, but also build meaningful relationships. It's always amazing to me that after I could have one telepresence sessions with someone, when I see them in person after that, we're always hugging or something, like we've known each other for years. It creates this kind of intimacy and knowledge. And I've actually had more effective meetings using Cisco Telepresence than I have sitting around the same table, because you're not glued to your computer and looking at doing some other things. And I've been using telepresence to really connect kids in Kenya and Canada, Latin America, all over the world, to show them how we're all the same. And what's really fascinating about the session that we had here in Toronto was that the girls found out that they have so much in common. Although when they were asked, this is in another telepresence I was, one of the girls asked, so does everybody in America or Canada live in the same room like my family does? How do you deal with bullying? It starts making the world smaller and starting to connect, because you're seeing people as people. And until you experience it, it's hard to explain how it really drives those relationships. Blogging. Anybody here a blogger? Love blogging. So blogging on Cisco.com, we have the first ever academy for the deaf in Kenya in the world. We've actually created the first sign language for the deaf in Swahili. There was never a word for internet or router or any technology term. And so we launched this quite proudly, and I have to tell you, it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life to go and meet with one of the employers of one of the youth from the Deaf Aid Academy. And what happened was, the employer told me, I get all these resumes, I looked at all these resumes, and I saw Cisco on it, so I pulled it out, and I thought, oh my God, I could have somebody from Cisco work for me in technology. And then I looked at the resume, and I saw that the individual was deaf. And I said to myself, what am I gonna do? I said to myself, God gives, God takes. I'm gonna give this guy a chance. I'm not religious, by the way, but that's what he said to me. And then the employee is sitting there beaming with a Kenyan Sign Language translator, and he says, I went away for 2 weeks. I was really worried about this guy being here. And as soon as I came back, I was told that he was my best employee. Can I have another one? Last week, we had everybody from Deaf Aid go in and refurbish computers. I mean, they're starting to feel like they're part of society. Technology gives them that ability to connect and feel like people. So I blogged about it. And how many of you think you're going to get a ton of comments on your blogs? Well, I had an amazing surprise to this blog post. I had Len Murdoch, who is a Cisco software engineer in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, send me an email and say, hey, I want to volunteer. I want to do something. I saw that we have this Deaf Academy. I'm deaf. Can we set up a telepresence? So we had a telepresence between Len and the kids. And these kids, one of these girls, when I was in Kenya and I was talking to her, she said to me, I thought I was watching a movie. I didn't realize it was all real and all happening in front of me. But now Len has been mentoring them nonstop and has been helping them see that they have a path, right? Think about developing developed world. They feel that they have a path of hope. And we're actually going to fly Ken to meet with them. And we're doing the first ever very technical training where we have people here from Cisco Canada, some of our local engineers, who heard me talk about this and came and said, you know, I was born in Kenya, I want to do things, but we have people here from Cisco Canada who have been mentoring these deaf students through telepresence. So when Hital came back from Atlanta after meeting Usher and Usher's mother and Bill Clinton, she said, I'm not doing enough, I want to do more. And I told her she was crazy, but I'm glad she didn't listen to me, because what she did was she went to the Kibera slum in Nairobi, and she identified 30 youth from Kibera, and they started a group called COVET, Connecting Voice of Inspiration for a Better Tomorrow. And they told me last Saturday, I'll talk to you more about it, that I'm part of their family because I'm working with them quite a bit. But these guys are my heroes. It's not I couldn't care what Lindsay was doing or Ashton is eating, but what I care about are these youth and what they're doing in the world. And what I told them in the first telepresence I had with them, I had 30 of them. They were very shy, very quiet. They didn't really speak out. And I told them that I'm going to show them what social media is about and how they could use these tools. And I said to them a couple things. I said, if you have a mobile device, and I said, do most of you have a mobile device? And they said, yes. If you have mobile device and internet connectivity, you have a voice. So let's see at how you can use your voice, because you are able now to connect to the world, and you could be like anyone else in the world. You know, the thing I love about the internet is everybody has a voice. The thing I hate about the internet is everybody has a voice. And so looking at how we can filter through it is really important. But you know, you're talking to youth also that now can use technology in a way that gives them courage, that gives them a voice and allows them to participate in the world. And Stephen is also one of my heroes. Here's a guy that when we came and asked him, what would you do if we gave you 5 PCs? What would you do with them? You know what he said to us? He told us, both my parents have died from TB, and what I would do is connect videos and take them around Kibera so people can get educated on how not to get TB. You know, coming from the developed world, a lot of us were really surprised at his response. And that's one of my messages here as well about collaboration and voice. It's all about the listening piece of it. And here's a guy who we actually offered a part-time job at Cisco because we saw the potential that he has to drive it. And he told me just last week that he feels that without COVET, he couldn't really express himself. He couldn't really talk about his life. So one example there. Another guy, they found out, so Usher has now sponsored COVET. They had 6 youth from Atlanta come out and have leadership sessions with the COVET group. And one guy decided that he wanted to be a rapper. So after the session we had, he now has a YouTube video of him rapping. He's posting on Facebook. Think about it. There's 700 million people on Facebook, and here's one guy who says, I have 50 people who believe in me. And so I know I can make a difference and I can do it, right? So I communicate to with a lot of them also through Facebook. And then another guy talked about this experience of coming with the Usher Foundation and really being able to realize the potential of leadership. Somebody put hope and also gave them the tools. How collaboration can change the world? It's by connecting people and giving people a voice to express. Absolutely critical. And what did they do, right? Did they pay a designer to create the Posterous blog that's out there? I showed them. I created the template for them I said, do you guys want a blog? They said, yes. I said, great. Let's go for a free tool. So I picked posterous.com. So we're doing, again, we're in different parts of the world, and I'm showing them how to start a blog, what blogging is, what they can do. And then they turn around, if you go to covetkenya.posterous.com, they have a more sophisticated blog than I can personally come up with, which is incredible. With the tools they have. This is actually a word gram from all the words that come out from all their blog posts. So these are the things, these are their messages that they're sending through the blog post. Do you think these guys now feel like they have some kind of voice, some kind of connection, that somebody actually cares? And then they have great ideas. They're really smart. Last week they told me that knowledge is better than food. What we want, with the connection we want, the way we want to collaborate is around information and knowledge. That's far more important to us. And in the telepresence session we had, unfortunately these, I'll tell you that these aren't the real photos because I'm not a good photographer. So I pulled these photos from somewhere else, but it's the same guys on the left hand. We had a telepresence last Saturday morning. I just landed from Toronto Thursday night, and 7 a.m. on Saturday, I had a telepresence with them, and I said, look, I'm coming to give this big talk in Canada. And they go, we love Canada. I want to represent your voice here. I want to show you how collaboration is changing the world. What messages do you have? What would you like people to know? And I think we could have gone more than two hours, but what they talked about is that now they have a sense of community. And I've never been with a group of folks who I've never met in my life in person, who told me that anything is possible, that they see themselves as changing the world. How many of you are familiar with the slums in Africa and know what kind of condition these folks live in? And these are the most hopeful, caring people I've met. And they were telling me that I have courage because I'm part of a community. And my message here is that they're there in person, but through all these social media tools, you guys can connect directly with them. They have a Facebook page. They have a blog. You could connect with, I'm sure there's a lot of different organizations. And one of the things I also learned in talking to them is that, especially with the girls, one of the messages they had was, we don't trust a lot of the NGOs, which I thought was really interesting. We want people within our own community to really help. Many of these girls have been exploited in the past, and the caring of people like them is also really critical to them. And what they said was, because we were trying to start a center in Kibera for girls to learn new skills. And what they said was that they felt that their whole reality is always people trying to help them versus how can they get the skills to help themselves. And I got to tell you this, in talking to youth in Canada as well, or looking at why is social media so popular in the developed world, I think we're missing a lot of opportunities of connecting people around causes, right? There's still, I think there's a younger generation now of social entrepreneurs that we could tap into and create. I just saw a statistic a couple of weeks ago around the US that kids are now coming out of school and they're making actually a courageous choice when they leave Harvard or one of these Ivy League schools, and they're going to work in the citizen sector. And they want to make a difference. And I think being able to connect it all in that way is really important. What do they want? They want a world free of corruption. They embrace transparency and authenticity. I think the developed world has not seen yet what's possible, because I don't think we totally get the impact of social media in terms of people having a voice, the communication platforms, building the relationships and talking about it. It's not about the tweets, it's about what goes behind it. And I'm doing a session all about that on Monday, by the way. Because I'm pretty passionate about how we use these tools effectively to collaborate both around the world. And I wrote a white paper with two CIOs of an NGO about how we actually need to start looking at how we collaborate better on social issues, because everybody's doing the same thing to the same people, right? That's part of the problem we have. And wouldn't it, everybody, how many of you have been in sessions on sustainability and replicability and anything else with IDI, that you could think of, right? But what is it that we're trying to do, and how do we get somebody who has an innovative idea in one part of the world to be able to take it to another? And this is where I think we haven't touched anything around social media or collaboration tools yet, because we're too focused. We had it right, I think, in the 80s, where it was about issues. Today, it's about followers, friends, I don't even know the terms anymore. But it's about people who are passionate about the same issues. How many of you can go back to your homes today and keep your conversation going? Did you have great conversations this week? Phenomenal, right? Met amazing people? How many of you are going to continue those conversations? Right? Imagine if we had a platform that connects that conversation in an ongoing way where we can really impact change. That's why I think the tools that we're seeing right now are fleeting, and we're going to see some change, but especially in the social entrepreneur sector and social innovation sector, we haven't seen yet what's possible. Imagine these girls connecting through telepresence and all the things that are happening right now in schools where kids, they don't learn something necessarily in a book. They could actually talk to somebody in a different culture and say, and I saw this between the girls in Toronto and the girls in Nairobi. They're like, so what do you eat? Oh, you like that too? It creates that commonality. Oh, you have problems like this in your family as well, right? And so it creates that voice and dialogue. So the funny thing is, and I'm being recorded, right, so I'll be careful about what I say next, but I said to them, so how was the visit with the New Look Foundation? And they said it was great. They did leadership training for us. It was amazing. But I think they learned more from us than we learned from them. Because what they saw coming from Atlanta was how strong of a community we are, how we work together. They came to a telepresence with me at 5 o'clock on a Saturday after they spent the whole day with other kids. Because one of the things when Hital started Covet was that there are 30 youth there. Each 30 youth has a multiplier of 30. So if you're in Covet, then you have to go and train and expand the minds and help 30 other youth. And that's how a movement is started. And again, think about it. 30 times 30, that's not a lot. Imagine 30 times collaboration tools, social media. What's possible? I wish the developed world would take devices to different villages around the world and say, you know what, you're the cultural anthropologist for your village. Tell me how to use this thing. And the best story I heard was during the mHealth conference where one of the guys said, we were working with a number of women and we were wondering why their mobile devices were stolen all the time. So we went and talked to the women. And the women told us that what is happening is they've got this bulky device, and so people are seeing it and they're stealing it from them. What if we gave them a mobile device that they could put right here while they're going to the well and getting water and no one can see it? So I think the main message here is about listening. I think that's the main message also about social media tools. It's not so much about the broadcasting, the telling. It's really about the listening and being part of it and looking at the design of it. So I asked the Covet guys, how can we be helpful to you? What would you like to see? And I'm actually giving you an ask here. So first of all, one of them said to me, I quote you all the time, Ayelet. I tell people that if you have a voice, you have a choice. And I was like, oh my God, I better be careful what I say. Now they're quoting me. But I said, how can we help? What can we do? And they said, we would really love to have some mentors. We really want to know about how to interview for jobs, career, knowledge. We'd like to know about life skills. How do I build my confidence, especially the girls we're talking about? How do I build my confidence? How do I get courage? How do I get, even if you tell me it's possible, how am I able then to go and try to do it? Next weekend, when I'm back home, I'm going to do a strategic planning telepresence with them to look at, they've actually created all these curriculums that they're using with all these youth, and they want to put them online. So I'm looking for anybody who has instructional design or curriculum and would like to experience Cisco telepresence, because I know I have colleagues here from Cisco Canada who would be happy to facilitate it for you, but to work directly with them. And you know, yesterday, luckily, I didn't get stuck in customs when I walked through with my big suitcase full of books that I'm shipping to them. I asked them, what books do you want? And it was interesting because in a session that we had with the Usher Foundation, one of the questions they got asked was, if you could meet anyone, who would you want to meet? And about 3 of the guys said, I would love to meet Nelson Mandela. And we asked why. You know, we didn't get so much into the rappers they wanted to meet, but they did say, we want to meet Nelson Mandela. And it just hit me when I was with them last week. I said, how many of you have read anything written by Nelson Mandela? Have you read his book? Have you read? Not one has access to it. And I know that there's a lot of people. I got a recommendation from friends saying you should just set Kindles out there so they can get ebooks, and I've read a lot about that. But you know, if you know the developing world, you know the issues around power and all that. So if any of you want to get involved, let me know. I'm pretty out there on Twitter. I'll have it at the end. And you know, a lot of my best thinking, I have to admit, comes in the shower. And I love this quote. Everyone who has ever taken a shower has had an idea. Is that true? I'm assuming you all shower, right? Yeah. Or bathe. It's the person who gets out of the shower, dries off, and does something about it that makes a difference. And with all the tools and all the possibility we have, and I know many of you sponsor other causes, other people here in Canada as well. There's a lot of things that need to be done, but any ideas? You know, as my colleagues could attest, I'm on Twitter, and you probably get me faster if you DM me on Twitter than any other way. So you know, any ideas that you have, I want to change the world. And I know it's Friday and it's late, and we started a little bit late, but I want to be respectful of that. So it's probably funny to hear somebody from Cisco tell you that it's not just all about technology. And the reason it's not is because if you look at what Cisco is about, what I love about Cisco, there are many things, but one of them is if you look at our mission, it's about changing the way we live, work, play, and learn. When I first started, almost 12 years ago, we didn't learn, but now we added learning to it. And I think that's a really big part of it. And the way to embrace these collaboration tools is not to think about them as a way to go, right? The reason, how many of you work in organizations where you feel overwhelmed by the amount of information that you get every day? And how many of you think like going to Twitter or Facebook is just, oh my God, just one more thing to do? Okay? And how many of you who just raised their hands are Gen Yers? I remember a day, and I'm only 23, so remember that, where, and some of you may not remember that, where we got communication in the office in a brown envelope with holes in it, with a little string. And people would write their names on it and then scratch it off. Anybody remember that, or anybody see it? Right? And then all of a sudden, email came about. And oh my God, I need to go to email now, right? The technology that's actually been the most easily adopted of all has been instant messaging. If you look at it, instant messaging, the adoption of instant messaging has been much higher than a lot of these social media because you could communicate with somebody directly. And what nobody's figured out yet is how do these social media tools integrate into your day-to-day life, like instant messaging, where you can actually collaborate with people more effectively. So I want you to take just like a mindset change and think about it. I just did a couple of workshops with Cisco sales folks, because in my real life, I run strategy and planning for Cisco Canada on the sales side. And I said to them, many of them were like, oh my God, Ayelet's going to come and talk to us about Twitter again and Facebook and all that stuff. That's what my kids do. And I said, how many of you use it for market intelligence? How many of you set up a TweetDeck or a Hootsuite or any one of these apps and use it to track information about folks? So don't think about it just in the traditional way. Think about how these tools can help you in your day-to-day life. And today I had a call with a customer in the morning before coming here. And I said to her, of course, how many of you Google other people? Right? I don't know if there's Google etiquette on that, but I Googled her before the call. And on the call, I said to her, I really found it interesting that you asked these questions on Quora. And we started talking about crowdsourcing and innovation based on that. And I also discovered some of her passions that she never in a first call would have identified. So using these tools as intelligence as well as getting the information that you need for your life is really important. And you know, I love Seth Godin. Well, most of his stuff, not all of it. But I love the fact that, you know, really what social media is about, what collaboration about, is about online collaboration. It's about how we connect with other people. I mean, I am now living in California, working in Cisco, Canada. I'm the only person on the executive staff who's not based, except for one other person based here in Toronto. And you know what? It works great because we have the tools to be virtual. Video, we have not seen anything that's possible with video. Video is the next amazing big thing that we're going to start seeing more of in terms of collaboration tools. And video is so important because of the human piece of it, right? How many of you have ever gotten into an angry email fight with someone? You know, Yahoo many years ago had a way of, what they did was if it was 2 points of conflict on email, the person had to get up from their cube and go to the next cube and talk to the person. So looking at how we connect is really important. And do you believe with me that we can change the world? Yeah? And you know what it is about collaboration tools and social media and all the hype there? If you're not there, people are having conversations about you, right? And if you're not there, they're talking about you, they're talking about your brand. I don't even know what you're saying about me while I'm here. I feel like I should go get my iPad or something. But looking at it, you don't want to become irrelevant. You want to be part of the conversation. When I wrote the handbook of social media for social good for the NGOs, I gave them tips, and that's available actually on slideshare.net. If you want to take a look at it, and it's 2 years old, so there's a lot of new tools that have come out, but some of the principles of how to use social media is still pretty prevalent there, that it's about trust and relationships and becoming relevant and being part of the conversation. It's about having a voice and expressing the voice. I feel like a global citizen because I have all these tools that I could use to connect to people all the time. And part of it is I feel like my purpose in this lifetime is to connect people. I'm constantly, somebody said to me today, oh, we want to look at disaster relief and we can bring this edge to it. And I'm like, did you talk to NetHope? Did you talk to Ashoka? Did you talk to these folks? Do you know what's going on? How do we get a world where we're not duplicating and we're actually streamlining the conversation so the people that we're trying to help don't get confused by who's trying to help them? So my closing message is stop worrying about technology, start thinking about trust, start thinking about the voice, start thinking about the relationship piece of it, because that's what stays with it. The tools enable it. The technology enables it. I mean, I can't imagine a life because I'm 23, I can't imagine a life without the internet and being connected all the time. And it was funny, my assistant who's here today, Jennifer, said to me earlier, she said, "Are you always on?" She actually sent me a direct message one day on Twitter and she said, "Are you on?" And I wrote her back, I said, "What?" It's part of the life. It adds a lot of value. So looking at how you use it, telepresence, we're going to try this out in Canada pretty soon. We want to put together a telepresence unit in different locations across the country where if I'm going to get a cup of coffee or a water or something and I could say, "Hey, Joe, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. Why don't we go have a conversation?" And Joe's in Vancouver and I'm in Ottawa. Then there's a 24/7 telepresence there that somebody could go to and talk to and have a conversation. Because the other part that's become really interesting is formality, right? Like you no longer sometimes during the workday pick up and call somebody because you're living by your Outlook. Where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to do, right? And so being able to let go a bit of that and create those conversations is really important. So think about trust, think about relationships, and the most important thing about my presentation is that this was a collaborative effort. I try to practice what I preach and lead by example here. And so I love slideshare.net. Anybody here use it? And I attribute everything to it. But this presentation wasn't just created by me. It was created by a lot of different people who, some of them are strangers, I've never met them, but they helped me pull it together. So that's what I wanted to share with you on a Friday afternoon on a beautiful day in Toronto. Thank you so much, and it's been a real honor to be here and also to be invited to be the keynote closing speaker.
Thank you so much, Ayelet. That was amazing. And now we just have a short time for some questions. If anyone has a question, we're taping, so we need you to come up to the microphone.
And I'm going to delegate the tough ones.
I'm sure this isn't. Thanks so much. That was a fantastic presentation. So I was curious because you put so much emphasis on relationships and on changing the world. And relationships have lots of things happen in relationships, and a lot of power happens in relationships. And I'm sure to change the world, we need to change the power dynamics and the social relations that produce those power relations. So I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about how you see social media changing social relations and changing the power dynamics and the systems that flow from those.
I'll give you first a personal. I've been reading a great book. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. It's Omar Hawke's The New Capitalist Manifesto, talking about what we need to fix in the world. And I've been having conversations with him on Twitter because I can't. When was the last time that I could be reading a book and having a conversation and asking questions or going to his blog and talking to him about questions based on that? And so do I have, I mean, relationships go at a whole different level. That could be another week of net change, I think. But when you look at it, you look at how this makes the world smaller in terms of relationships. The other part of it is video. Video, to me, is going to be huge. I don't think I couldn't have had the people at Covet say to me, "You're part of our family," if we didn't do it through video, if we didn't do it through telepresence, and that they didn't really see me. And I saw the evolution. I saw them from being these guys who I'd have to prod to talk to not being able to shut up. And sorry if you're taping this. I mean, to talk eloquently and and share your stories with me. And so I think the relationship piece is when you're an early adopter, right? When I started using Twitter, I could read everybody who I was following, right? It was the best experience on earth because I didn't have to filter. It was the people that I wanted to be connected with. Within 5 seconds, I knew if I wanted to be, connected to them or not. And then we'd have fabulous conversations. We did a strategic alliance between NetHope and Mobile Active because of Twitter, right? So we built a relationship that started on Twitter, and then we moved it to face-to-face. And again, it's this online-offline thing that I'm telling you, I'm a Gen Yer in an old vessel here, but it's that ability to find out who you want to have that relationship with and how to build it and how to communicate it. For me, I can't stand going to the web browser on Twitter, but I use every application so I could test it and talk about it. But new application that came out, I mentioned it earlier to someone, Plancast. Has anybody been on Plancast? Great application. Right now, it's mostly early adopters that are on it, but you want to find out events in different cities you're traveling with or different areas. There are ways to connect with other people. And I think what happens is, for those of us who may be a bit older, offline works when online works. Online works when offline works. That human connection, that relationship, has to be there. You can't just do everything one way. You can't just do everything virtually. Like, I have to tell you, I can't wait for my next trip to Kenya, because now I want to do workshops, I want to do sessions, I want to do a lot more because I'm more educated about what I could do. And I want to bring the right people with me as well. So that relationship using social media is the same thing. That's why it's not about the technology, it's about human behaviors, but your reach of people is much broader. Your ability to connect with people and to have, some people are just not nice people, they don't respond. But there are a lot of really nice people who will respond that you could build with. I mean, I can give you tons of cooking examples too.
Thank you for this. I find it very interesting, your work in the developing world. The question that came to mind as I listened to you, and you bring these wonderful tools of sharing, communication, collaboration, creativity, how you deal on the ground with the issue of literacy. Mm-hmm. Even as the internet came along in its early days, and one could just taste the power of it. I thought about it even in the Canadian context, where almost 1/3 of the population is functionally illiterate. I'd be interested to know how you deal with that. Thank you.
That's where video becomes really important, because with video, like through the written word right now, if you do it in English, you have to know English if you're literate. But now with video, I could do it in my own language and communicate directly with people. And I think that's why I think the next big thing in some of these social media tools is going to be around video, because it doesn't require that level of literacy. But you look at countries like Costa Rica that have, I think it's a 94 to 97% literacy rate. And you look at what can we learn from there to apply to other parts of the world. But it's a huge issue with that. But I think also more people are now becoming literate because of mobile devices. I'm dying to see this new movie that came out called The First Grader. I don't know if you saw it, but it's about a guy who's like in his 70s who goes back to learn how to read and write. And it's a true story.
I was wondering if you could talk just a little bit about, like you mentioned, video and the telepresence stuff, how that's being used in health initiatives.
Sure.
I think you mentioned it briefly, the telemedicine stuff that Cisco's doing. Thanks.
So we have a big practice around health presence. Actually, when I go to the doctor in San Jose, California, the doctor's on the other side of the screen. The health presence unit has all the devices on my side with a nurse practitioner, which is a term I learned when I moved to the US, with a nurse practitioner on my side doing all the diagnostic tools. And being able to do that, in India, we actually have health presence on a bus. So it could come to you. We were also looking at an initiative in Pakistan. Women in Pakistan have a really high rate of breast cancer that goes undiagnosed because they don't get the medical care. So we're looking at how do we get health presence or people to them so they can diagnose it in stage 1 or stage 2, and then it could be treated. So telemedicine is absolutely huge. Again, it's an area that's far more, if you talk to, I can't remember his name, but the guy who leads a telemedicine institute in India was at our mHealth conference a couple years ago, and he was doing brain surgery using telemedicine. The challenge that in health and that a lot of these guys have is just the accessibility, right? I was talking to one guy who said, I have 2 doctors in my refugee camp. How do I get more people to be able to screen? And I think this is where the health, you know, in parts of the world we still have broadband issues and connectivity issues, but we were looking at actually setting up health presence in Nepal. And doing a test around that. So we would have a 24/7 NGO solution, because right now people would walk 3 or 4 days to go see the doctor. But what if they came at 1 o'clock in the morning? What if we got a whole bunch of NGOs to use health presence, and they were able to come at 2 in the morning, 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, and share the costs of it, so people didn't have to walk and people had better health care. And we have a ton on health presence. If you want to talk afterwards about that, I'd be happy to. I have a question for everybody. Are you going to do anything? Anybody here interested in helping me out? Okay, great, thank you.
We have time for one more question. If anyone had one last burning question, anyone? I think we're all sort of just sitting here in awe, letting it percolate. At least that's what I'm doing, as I'm having an idea crush on Ayelet.
And here's the reason why I'm here.
I just had a question about the Covet program and just the genesis of it and how you kind of went about identifying 30 leaders in the slums, and then also how you're translating, you know, mentorship and skills into something action-oriented and where kind of they're going, and overcoming just some of the systemic barriers around unemployment in Kenya and some of those realities.
Yeah. Well, the secret sauce here is Hital Miraj, who I mentioned earlier, who's our networking academy in East Africa. And she takes her son on the weekends to go volunteer at Kibera. And I like to call her the Mother Teresa of Kenya, although hopefully you're taping this, so she knows it. She actually had a lot of relationships. I mean, we've started a lot of Pasha villages, of connected villages. We started in Kenya first, and we work with a lot of the politicians. When I met with the vice president of Kenya, it was really interesting that the whole sales team walked in, and the first person he looked to was Hital. So again, to your question about relationships, this is where relationships become really, really important. And the sustainability of it is what I'm trying to do right now. Hopefully I'll have an answer for you in the next 8 months. But you know, they've put together all these courses, all these classes, and now they need some help from some instructional designers to put it together and make it go online. And wouldn't it be great if somebody in the developed world actually used their curriculum? Because I tell you, we can learn a lot from them about leadership. Does that answer? I'm a bit jet lagged too. Well, she was involved with Stephen for quite a bit. Stephen, who I shared with you earlier, was a social entrepreneur. He started a business in Kibera of knowledge centers, and he ran 3 of them. And he had a relationship with Cisco before that. So she went back and being part of the community. I mean, part of it is that she got that award for youth leadership, and so she's very much in touch with them. And I think that's the key there too, because here's a relationship. I didn't know Hital 2 years ago. I met her on telepresence. And she looked at the other end of the screen going, when I was on the executive team of emerging markets, and she looked on the other end of the screen and she went, oh my God, another executive. What do they want from me? I got real work to do, right? I could just read it in her face. And then I asked her to do a couple things and send a couple things, and all of a sudden she saw blog posts happening, things happening, and we started building that trust and that relationship. And then when I went to Kenya, instead of doing some of my official work, I spent a part of my time going to Rwanda, going to the different areas to really go talk and meet and listen and learn about that and build those relationships. So when she came back from Atlanta and said, I'm going to start Covet, I said, I'm right in there with you. And, you know, I also, I won't be shy, I'll help them financially as well to get established, because I see them as the hope and the future of our world.